Alrighty, so we've seen how to define instance attributes and instance methods. Now we're going to talk about class attributes and then following this, class methods. So if an instance attribute is defined on each individual instance of a class, on each user object, a class attribute is defined once and it lives on the class itself. So directly on the class, and they're shared. So whatever class attributes we define are shared by all instances. They kind of all point to the same class attribute. So let me show you what I mean. So I'm back in the same user file where I have my class user, init, and then a couple of instance methods. I'll start off by saying that class attributes and methods are used far less often than instance attributes and instance methods. But with that said, this is a video on class attributes, so I better come up with an example. And the first one I'm going to show you has to do with keeping track of how many users we've created. So let's say that this is modeling a chat room now, and I want to, like Facebook Messenger, and I want to keep track of how many users are active at any given moment. So I could say something like 5 users online, 4 users online. So what I'm going to do is define my class variable. And the syntax for that is we just put it up here and we don't write self. So if I just define a method or a variable in here, or in here, if I said something like, I don't know, count equals 0, this is a variable scoped to full name. But if I want it to be part of the class or defined as a class attribute, I'll come up here or anywhere that's not in one of those methods, but traditionally you do it up top. Let's call this one active users and set it equal to 0. Okay, so what we've done now is define a class attribute called active users, and it exists one time on the user class itself, not on the individual instances of user. And the way we actually refer to it, if I wanted just to print active users, I could come down here, I'll comment everything out and just do print, and I refer to the class name, user.activeusers. So I don't refer to the instances anymore, just user.activeusers. It starts at 0. Let's see if we're right. And we get 0. Okay, so let's say now anytime a new user is initialized, we're going to add one to active users. So we don't write self, it's going to be user.activeusers plus equals 1. So anytime a new user is created, init runs automatically. This code is all for the instance self. So the individual instance, last name, age, first name. This is referring to the class attribute or class variable, active users. We're adding one to it. Okay, so let's test this out. We're going to print it out, and then let's create our 2 users. So I'm going to copy this, put it afterwards, and then let's print active users again. So we should see 0 and then 2 after we create these 2 users. Let's test it. Cool, 0 and then 2. All right. So we could also do something like define a method called logout. And all that logout does is, let's make it an instance method because it's going to print something like, I don't know, Jane logged out. Jane left the chat room. So we'll make that an F string that will return, and it should say self.first has logged out. But before that, we're going to decrement user.activeusers. Okay, so when logout is called on an individual instance of user, we're going to refer to the class variable active users and subtract 1 from it. Remember, there's only one copy of this at any given time. We could have 1,000 different users. There's only one user.activeusers. They're all referring to it when we write user.activeusers. And then I'm going to return self.first has logged out. Let's test this out. So I'll do print user2.logout, and then let's print active users again. So we should see 0 active users. Add 2, so then we should see 2, and then we should see a logout method, and then we should go down to 1 active user. And moment of truth, there we go. 0 users, then we created 2, then Blanca logged out, so we're left with 1.